Now, yesterday you would have heard the interview with Dele Alli in which he admitted to Gary Neville that he was addicted to sleeping pills and had been in rehab in the United States of America for 6 weeks, up until 3 weeks ago. He also suggested that there was a sleeping pill problem more prevalent in football than maybe we would think. Let's speak to Rochdale's club doctor, Dr. Wes Tensel, who's also an NHS and private GP, and he joins us now. Hello.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme. I suppose the central to this is that accusation, that sort of revelation, really more than anything else, that there is a problem in football with players being addicted or becoming addicted to these sleeping pills. Is that something that you've come across?
It's not something that's prevalent, especially not at Rochdale. So I can obviously only comment on my club, but there have been incidences where we've had players on loan from teams that are higher up the league. And they have come to me and some of the players have asked, can I have a sleeping tablet? Which to me was new. I was wondering, why does a young person need a sleeping tablet? And they explain that they have had it from team doctors in the past. And similar to what Dele Alli had said about, the high adrenaline, can't sleep the night before a game. And that was the reason that they were being given it. As a GP, as my main job as the NHS and for a private company as well, sleeping tablets is not something that we generally would give out unless somebody really needs it. And if we do give out sleeping tablets, it really is for a very short course, and that may be a few tablets to last them a couple of weeks or so. So to hear that, some of the players are having it regularly, that's not a good thing, because they are highly addictive.
I guess also it's not just the sleeping tablets that they obtain from people like yourself. We've done a bit of research this morning and they are quite easily obtainable on the internet. Do you think that's part of the issue, that maybe there are players who aren't necessarily getting the sleeping tablets from the club doctors, from their GP, but actually they're going direct?
100%. And again, if patients I'll see, if we say we won't give them sleeping tablets, they'll sometimes turn around and say, well, I can just buy them off the street, doctor, I'll get them from there. So it's, diazepam, sleeping tablets, all these sort of drugs, if people want to access them, they can get them. I think it's more the education to the players and to the public and people to be realising that it's not a good option. It's not a long-term solution. And often, there's an underlying cause, there's something else that can be done. So in terms of, the footballers, if there is a lot of heightened stress or anxiety, adrenaline before a game, is there something else that can be done? And, a lot of teams are having like mental health support now made available, and maybe talking about those issues and dealing with it that way is better, because as you can see, you can become addictive, it can spiral out of control, and then these further problems can occur down the line.
What's really interesting is a lot of people will say, well, hold on a second. If you're a sportsman and you're taking sleeping pills, surely they'll get picked up in a drug test or they'll get picked up by the authorities. The truth of the matter is that, as far as I understand it, the sleeping pills that are issued by clubs are obviously issued by clubs because they're not on the WADA banned list. As a result of that, they are sometimes used, and this is a report that I read today, sometimes used when mixed with other alcohol or other stimulants, used as a way of getting a buzz. Have you heard instance of that happening as well? Because I suppose in an effect, it's almost a way of taking a drug without taking a drug that's banned on the WADA list of banned substances.
So it's not something that I've come across, because, as I said, the players at Rochdale, as far as I'm aware, no one has come to me for sleeping tablets. And I guess if they're doing it without my knowledge, it's not something they're going to discuss. So in terms of them taking it with alcohol to get a buzz, loads of drugs, people mix and they take for various reasons, but it's definitely not something that I've seen in football.
But is it something that could escape the drug testers, for example? Is it a way of getting a high without it being banned?
Well, yeah. So, you can easily look on the WADA list of drugs that are prohibited, within sports. So players can do that as well. So they can see what they're taking. And if it's not on that list, then it's not going to be looked for in the drug tests and wouldn't be picked up, really.
Do you think enough is being done, particularly, it sounds like from what you're saying, maybe the issue is more geared towards the top end of the game than the lower leagues. Do you think enough is being done at Premier League level to help people like Dele Alli who may become addicted?
I think the help's always there. It's also the players need to know how to access it. The team doctors there always first port of call. If a player wants to call me any time of the day, they do. So we're there to speak to them. But it's also maybe getting that awareness out there that there is help. I mean, about 4 years ago, going back now, when Rochdale were playing Manchester United in the Carabao Cup, one of our biggest games, I actually did a talk for the players about sleep. And all the team were really good. Brian Barry Murphy was the manager at the time, and he got all the players in, and we were discussing about that. And I touched on like sleeping pills and how, you know, that's not something that we would look at. So it's, you know, that information is there, but it's for the clubs to be maybe proactive now, especially this has been raised, to, you know, speak about not just sleeping tablets, but any sort of drugs in the game, and who they need to speak to and to seek help early instead of letting things get worse and worse.
We were speaking to a psychotherapist yesterday who suggested that there would have been people at Tottenham Hotspur, at other clubs, that would have realised that Dele Alli had a problem, but yet hadn't intervened or been able to intervene. Can you tell if someone has got a problem always? And when does it come to a point where you feel you have to intervene as a doctor, as a club doctor?
So, you know, people can always find ways to hide if they're, you know, taking things that they shouldn't be taking. They'll always try and mask those symptoms. You know, sometimes you can tell maybe their personality's changed, the performance has dipped, because, you know, these drugs are sedatives. They can linger in the system. So, you know, things like that can, you know, maybe flagged up. I mean, as a doctor, if at any point I found out that a player was taking sleeping tablets, I would want to have a chat with them. First of all, find out, you know, where are they getting them from? Is their own GP prescribed it? You know, what are the reasons? And then I'd probably discuss with them why it's not a good thing. If I feel that someone's, you know, abusing the medication, then definitely I would be raising that with them and trying to get them on board, you know, speak to the management. But as a doctor, whether it's a footballer or not, I treat them as I treat any of my patients, private, NHS or football. They're all human. So if I don't think that's good for them, I will tell them and flag it up.
You mentioned you tell the manager. Are you confident in that scenario that most managers would back their medical staff? Because if, for example, Dele Alli was performing right at the top of his capabilities while taking sleeping tablets and it was flagged up by a doctor, is there any fear that maybe a manager might turn a blind eye?
Well, first of all, there's always patient-doctor confidentiality. So it's going to be between me and the player, first of all. But if I feel like there's an issue going on, you know, I'll speak with the player and say, you know, maybe we need to let the management know. Is the pressure from above, which is making you turn to these drugs? So it's depending on what the problem is. In terms of what would a manager do if a top player is doing well and a doctor comes in? I think this is an issue for sports medicine, sports doctors in all fields at all levels, and we have to be honest. And I mean, if I feel like it's detrimental to the player, I feel at Rochdale we've had, you know, a few good managers who take on board what the medical team have to say. I think I've got a good enough relationship with the current manager, Jim McNulty, that if I was to say that I don't think somebody should be playing because there's some sort of underlying medical reason, I definitely think he would take that on board and would listen, even if that was our main star player at that time.
Okay, listen, thank you very much. We appreciate you giving us your time. That's Dr. Wes Tensel, who's joined us. He's the Rochdale club doctor, to talk about the accusation, the sort of revelation by Dele Alli that the sleeping pills that he has been taking actually are being used by other players as well.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.